There's something about a story with no ending that crawls under your skin and stays there. We tell ourselves we want answers, but the truth is we love the not knowing, the cases that sit in the dark for decades daring someone to switch on the light. Tonight we're doing something a little different. We're looking at some of the strangest mysteries ever recorded, the ones that haunted investigators for years, and we're following them all the way to the moment the fog finally lifted. Some of these still have loose threads. A few of them got answers nobody saw coming, so get comfortable because we're about to find the truth. We start in the high desert of New Mexico in a small town called Taos, where for years residents have complained about a sound. Not a loud sound, not a siren or an engine, but a low, persistent hum, like a distant diesel motor idling somewhere just out of reach. The strange part is that only a fraction of people can hear it, and the ones who can describe it as maddening, a vibration that lives in the bones rather than the ears. Investigators arrived with microphones and sensors expecting to pin it down in an afternoon. Instead, they recorded nothing at all, no acoustic signal that matched what people swore they were hearing. For decades, it stayed unexplained, blamed on everything from secret military equipment to the human nervous system playing tricks. Recent research suggests the most likely culprit is a quiet collision between industrial vibrations carried through the ground and the rare ears sensitive enough to detect frequencies the rest of us tune out completely. Not aliens. Just a handful of people cursed with hearing the planet's background noise. Let's travel from the desert to the cold Atlantic to one of the most famous ghost ships in history. In 1872, a merchant vessel called the Mary Celeste was found drifting near the coast of Portugal. Sails partly set, cargo untouched, the captain's belongings still neatly in place. But the lifeboat was gone, and so was every single person aboard. There was no sign of struggle, no blood, no storm damage that could explain why an entire crew would abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship in the open ocean. For over a century, the Mary Celeste became shorthand for the unexplainable, a vanishing that spawned wild theories about sea monsters, mutiny, and pirates. The answer, when researchers pieced it together, was far quieter and far more human. The ship had been carrying barrels of industrial alcohol, and it's believed that fumes leaking from those barrels convinced the captain a deadly explosion was imminent. In a panic, he ordered everyone into the lifeboat, intending to wait at a safe distance tethered to the ship. The rope likely snapped. The Mary Celeste sailed on without them, and the crew was lost to the sea, victims not of a monster but of a single moment of fear. Speaking of fear, let's go somewhere even darker, to a remote farmstead in Germany in 1922. The Hinterkaifeck farm was home to a family of 6, and one spring night all of them were murdered, struck down one by one with a pickaxe. What makes the case so disturbing isn't just the violence, it's the days that came before it. The family had reported footprints in the snow leading to the house, but none leading away. They heard footsteps in the attic. The maid had quit weeks earlier, convinced the place was haunted. And after the murders, neighbors noticed smoke rising from the chimney and the livestock had been fed, suggesting the killer stayed in the house for days with the bodies. Despite decades of investigation and dozens of suspects, no one was ever charged, and the Hinterkaifeck murders remain genuinely unsolved to this day. It's one of those rare cases that resists every theory thrown at it, a reminder that not every mystery surrenders, but many of them do, eventually. Take the case of a strange figure who terrorized a stretch of England in the 19th century. A man the newspapers called a leaping phantom because witnesses swore he could clear high walls in a single bound. Reports described glowing eyes and claws, and for years the sightings fueled genuine panic across the countryside. Modern researchers believe the legend was a tangled knot of real pranksters, exaggerated retellings, and the simple fact that fear spreads faster than truth. Strip away the folklore, and what's left is a very ordinary lesson about how a city can frighten itself into believing almost anything. Now here's one that might be sitting in your pocket right now. Think about how much of your life lives on your phone, your messages, your photos, your location, every place you've been, and everyone you've spoken to. Most people assume that information stays private. It doesn't. Companies you've never heard of quietly collect and sell your personal details to anyone willing to pay, which is exactly why protecting your digital footprint matters more than ever. But let's get back to mysteries that don't involve your data being auctioned off in the dark. Let's head to Brazil, to a hillside near Rio where in 1966 two men were found dead, lying side by side, wearing matching suits and homemade masks made of lead. Beside them was a notebook with a cryptic message about ingesting capsules and waiting for a signal. There were no signs of trauma, no obvious cause of death, and the lead masks suggested they'd been trying to protect themselves from something, radiation maybe, or a light they expected to encounter. The case became a magnet for theories about contact with the unknown. The more grounded explanation that investigators eventually leaned toward is that the men were part of an amateur group experimenting with substances they believed would let them perceive spirits, and that an accidental overdose killed them both as they waited on that hill for something that was never coming. From there, let's cross to the eastern coast of Canada, to a small island where for more than 200 years people have been digging in search of buried treasure. The island became famous for a deep shaft that seemed engineered to flood whenever anyone got close to the bottom, as if someone had designed an elaborate booby trap to guard whatever lay beneath. Generations of treasure hunters poured fortunes and even lives into the pit, convinced that pirate gold or some priceless artifact waited just a few feet deeper. Modern geological surveys point to a more natural answer: a system of underground channels connected to the sea that floods the shaft on its own, no pirates required. But people keep digging anyway because some mysteries are too good to let go of, even when the evidence quietly asks us to. Let's end with one that came down to a single piece of paper. For decades, an unidentified man was found dead on a beach with no wallet, no name, and a scrap of paper hidden in a pocket bearing a foreign phrase that translated roughly to "it is ended." Codes scrawled in a book connected to him were never cracked, and for generations he was a perfect ghost, a person who seemed to have stepped out of nowhere and into death. What finally solved it wasn't a code breaker or a spy hunter. It was DNA. By tracing genetic material from his remains, researchers managed to follow the threads back to living relatives and put a name to the man at last. He turned out to be no secret agent, just an ordinary person traveling toward a personal reason that died with him. We know who he was now. We still don't fully know why he was there, and somehow that unfinished corner makes the story stick with you long after the rest is explained. That's the strange comfort of these cases. We chase them because we want the ending, the clean resolution, the moment everything snaps into place. But the truth is that the answers are rarely as thrilling as the questions, and sometimes the most ordinary explanation is the most unsettling of all, because it means these things really happen to real people in a world that looks a lot like ours. A hum no one could hear, a ship with no crew, a farmhouse with footprints leading only one way. The next time something seems impossible to explain, remember how many of these stories eventually gave up their secrets, and how many are still out there waiting, patient in the dark, for the right person to finally switch on the light. Until then, keep asking questions. The truth has a way of surfacing when you least expect it.